Hello you beautiful people, and you join me here again if you've seen my nostalgia video part 1 back at Thornham Fisheries. Now before I go into what we're going to do, I just want to say a huge thank you. I want to start off by saying thank you to all you guys that have started to really interact with my channel, the likes, like on my last video where I was on the wave and fishing for chub. I thank every single one of you, like it's incredible. So got the gushy stuff out of the way. What are we doing today? Well, we're back on what I call the smallest lake. Have a look out there, guys and girls. Half frozen. It's going to be tricky. It's actually going to get very warm today. Well, for the end of January, going to get up to about 8 degrees. And if you saw the last video, you'll probably notice I'm situated down here now, because that's where all the bubbling and fizzing, all this corner. So to me personally, it looks like it might be the deepest part because it isn't frozen, albeit it might have had a bit of wind on that part of the lake. But looking at the other two lakes, totally frozen, no chance of getting on there unless you want to break through some ice. So what are we doing today? Well, I've actually gone and picked my seat box up, which I used to use in junior club matches, and when I was fortunate enough to fish for Suffolk County as well in the National League matches. And I've also gone and got myself a 9-metre pole. So second hand, but I think it will be good enough. So fingers crossed. Right, we better get the pole set up. Obviously someone's getting married, which is a lovely noise in the background. Good luck, all the best. And yeah, anyway, let's get the pole set up and see what we can do. It's going to be tricky, but not impossible. Okay, so here we are then. So got my seat box down there. I left my footrest a little bit up because one of the feet rest on my stand is actually missing, so I wanted to make sure I got enough leverage on it so I don't go absolutely tumbling in, because although it'd be a comedy moment, I appreciate this time of year it's best to stay dry. So what do I do first of all? So I've actually just jammed everything in my box. I weren't meant to go fishing today, but I was meant to go and see my mum, have a roast dinner. And I did do that later on, but so I thought, do you know what, I'm going to go out and just try this pole because we decided to have dinner later. But anyway, so I put some 2 mils in that bait tub and just soaked them in water. That's what I always do typically before I start. They get nice and wet then, and you can make some paste out of them too. So obviously got the top kit there. Time to put a pole rig on, obviously, and the next stage would be plumbing the depth. So I've actually got very sparse pole equipment because I did sell all my poles and stuff years ago now. So it's quite exciting actually to be back on the pole and the seat box. It's good to obviously fish for the specimen fish, chub, barbel, carp, pike, but sometimes it's good to go back to basics and just go back to how it all began. So there I'm putting, well, I would say a plummet, but I left the plummet in my bag. But I had a little lead in there, so I just literally hooked that on the lead. Does the same job pretty much, and now it's time to plumb the depth. Now I know typically from last time I was here that the depth is all pretty samey, but obviously it's always good to try and find a little shelf if you can here and there. I know really that I'm going to have to be sort of fishing at least sort of 8 meters to get whereabouts I was when I was chucking that maggot feeder about, which done the job last time. So I thought, I was really confident that we're in for a fairly decent day. Obviously it's always a bit of a worry when you see a lake half frozen, but I've fished here years ago and cracked through ice and managed to get onto the small carp. So although I hadn't seen any signs of any fish, I was pretty confident. And there I'm happy with that spot. I'm really happy. I remember seeing fizzing there. But what I do remember my match fishing days, and pretty much all your fishing that's always good to do is, try and have 2 lines on the go at least, 2 positions. So there I was happy. I just wanted to check whether there was any sort of differences there and, put it back over. And I remember last time I was here fishing just opposite, that swim opposite there, I was chucking the feeder out here and there was just typically 2 sets of fizzing, so I wanted to try and replicate what I was doing last time to a degree, so hence why I'm plumbing up there to then use that little pole cup on the top to get some bait out to both lines. So my next job there, I'm basically getting some of the 2 mils that have been soaked, squishing them a little bit, and filling up that tiny little pole cup that I made for the end of the pole. And it's time to get the swims going. So typically, even this time of year, I'd put 4 or 5 of them. They're only small. That's only a small lid that I've made a cup out of. And it was really weird going back on the pole after so many years, because I was like, oh, don't spill it, and a few times I did. But it's like anything, isn't it? Once you get the hang of it again, it's just like riding a bike. But slow and steady definitely wins the race when having a pole cup of pellets. So after 4 or 5 on each line, it's time to bait up. So stupidly, I didn't buy any maggots this time, and I did worry slightly about it. But what I opted for was basically to fish, 2 mils as a pace. So effectively, I'm matching the hatch there, which is not a bad thing. But seeing the lakes frozen, it did really concern me that I hadn't actually bought any maggots. And after a few hours, look at the rain. It doesn't look too bad, but you can hear the wind there. The weather absolutely changed. It got almost to the point of being unfishable, and it doesn't look like it on this part of the lake. But wow, did that wind start howling, and that rain lashed it down. And again, I'm thinking, if only I had some maggots. I had one bite that I missed. Things got really tricky, but we persevere. Now you can really start to hear the wind howling in. It did get absolutely crazy at one point, but you can't ever give up. You just got to keep trying, haven't you? A couple of times I did think, shall I just go get in some nice warm environment out of the wind? But hey, most of us fishermen, well, not all of us, a lot of us are fair weather fishermen, but some of us are balmy, where we'll absolutely love it no matter what. Now, what I'm going to say is you might want to jump on my channel and have a look at the many other different fishing videos that I've got there, because sadly this was a blank and I could not believe it. But it's just one step closer to that red letter day. And I'll tell you what I've got coming up. If you think I'm mad fishing a commercial fishery, I'm actually going to Foxer Fisheries. Now, I fished a specimen lake there, but I've never fished their dedicated tension crucian lake. Now, you're probably going, James, you can't even catch in a commercial carp fishery. How are you going to catch summer species in a winter lake? Now, I've texted the owner. He said you've got a good possibility of 1 or 2, which, he was straightforward. It's going to be tough. But the beauty is, this part of the UK, over the next few days, we're not going to see a frost. It's going to be it's going to be 8 degrees tonight, apparently, all night. But it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, around that sort of figure. And I think if we approach that lake with worm, hemp, maggots, pinkies, tiny balls of ground bait on the pole. I hope I'm going to show you one or two. So let's see what happens. For now, I'm going to leave you with these beautiful creatures.